Alright guys, back to the Jeep Liberty for part 2. Big Chuck, he replaced the cam gear, made an improvised tool, did an amazing job, didn't have to tear the timing cover off. The old gear is right here. They came off the 04 engine, and sure enough the windows are different, so we were right about that. The gear is installed, but it still doesn't start. So I got the scanner hooked up again. Let's crank it, look at our synchronization. We got no codes to begin with, that's good. Let's look at our data display. Let's customize this. Deselect all, crank, cam, sync. Let's do map. What else do we want to do? RPM, TPS. Alright, list view. That works. Map is at 4.4. Cam and crank count. Let's graph those and crank it. Alright. Turn the key off there. Let's try that again. Cam, crank, let's do sync. Alright, there you go. Is the battery voltage too low here? What was that?
Sounds like started.
Let's see here. We didn't get an RPM signal. The cam is counting, the crank is counting. I mean, I need this to crank for like 10 seconds to get a good reading here. Oh, it sounded a little better than last time. It almost fired up. And the sync, we're not losing the sync. Alright, so let's do, I want to see these cam and crank signals in action here. Save that. Let's go back to our codes, make sure the computer is okay, P0340, no cam signal at PCM. That's a different code than we had last time, I think. So we have to go to the PCM and see what the cam signal looks like. So at least we have a direction here. What's that? Yeah, I'm just gathering some data. Let's see here. Okay, that's where we're at. So that's the only code we have now. And before we had 1391 and 340, no cam signal, PCM, intermittent loss of camera, crank. Alright, let's go to the cam and crank sensors. Alright, we're doing the same timing synchronization check with the pressure transducer and the control wire on that number 2 ignition coil. So let's give it a crank and see if the spark lines up with the compression peak.
You need me to look at spark?
What's that?
You need me to watch for spark?
No, I'll see on my scope. Alright.
That's as close as it's going to get. Hook another wire to it. Some of this shit even still gets me. Grass and rock.
What the fuck? Well, that one was on. It's all over the place. Let's see here. It's inconsistent at best.
You do what?
It's inconsistent at best. Let's see, there's one right there. So I think now, now we have to go to the PCM and get the cam and crank signals there, just to make sure they're getting to the computer, because we do have that code still, and the timing looks kind of random, like that one right there was on the money, well, close to top dead center, but as you can see, it's still sparking very randomly. So let's check for cam signal at the PCM. Alright, we're at the PCM. We're hooked up to both cam and crank signals. The crank is a gray and black wire on pin 8, and the cam is a tan and yellow on pin 18, right side by side. 2 channels. We're going to get a cam crank relationship. See what's going on here.
They don't love each other, that's what's going on. No, really.
Alright. See what's going on here. 4.
Hatfields and McCoys. That family garment.
We got 1, 2, 3. What's our signature here? 1, 2, 3. 3, 3. That doesn't make any sense.
1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2.
Okay, I see that one. Yep, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2. Let's go to the next one. 1, 2, 3. What's the next one? 1, 3, 2.
1, 3, 2.
What the hell's going on here? We're missing the 1.
The windows were there, trust me.
You gotta see this, Al. This is nuts.
I believe you.
1. The computer's missing it. I'm sure the windows are there. The sensor's not picking them up for some reason. Let's see. 1, 3, 2.
Why is different? That's what I keep saying.
1, 3, 2. 1, 2, 3. And then we're missing whole. We're just getting the 3. 1, 3, 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 3, 2. 1, 2, 3. 3, 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 3, 2.
2 wires touching or something, I don't know.
And where the hell is our crank signal? That's what I want to know. 1, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 3, 2. Is it plugged in? Okay.
Double checking.
All right. Yep.
No, that's the issue.
I mean, we had it yesterday, so we should have it today. Let's see. Let me dig around a little bit. So I'm just looking at the setup here.
I'm just trying to keep my cool.
Yep. Cam sensor,
Your fault.
crank gear.
Not my fault, but I'm the one about
We'll get a run out. I guarantee it.
Not too sure, Adam, not too sure.
So the gap right there is right what it's supposed to be, and Al said that to get this gear in, you loosen the sensor, move the back a hair, put the gear on, put the sensor back in. So everything should be, the distances should be good. Chuck, oh yeah, sorry. Oh yeah, Al's not here.
That was the other garage.
Well, so I want to get a consistent crank and cam signal at the PCM. That's the goal right now. Alright, so we're going to redo it again. I just had a bad connection on the crank PID. They're both supposed to be high with the key on at 5 volts. That's good. Pulled the ASD out so it wouldn't try to start. I just want to crank it consistently and look at these signals. So key off. Yep. Key on. There you go, 5 volts. Crank. Alright. Should be a good capture there. And then alright, let's see this. So cam and crank, so let's just look at the cam right now. I want to see a good signal. 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2. Right? That's the correct pattern now?
Yep. Yep.
1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2.
Oh, wait. Look again.
I mean, it has to be. That's 1, 2, 3 is how it starts.
Yeah. Yeah, we put the 03 on the 04.
Mm-hmm.
Need this one. Yeah, I wrote it down. We need this one. Yep, 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
3, 2.
Yep, yep. A consistent all the way across.
Line fucking fire.
Jeez. 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2. It looks good all the way across, so we have the right gear on there. The cam sensor is picking it up. We have a good signal.
Sorry, I didn't mean to swear. I didn't know you were on there.
Oh, yeah, no problem. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2.
Starting to sound a little like Sesame Street.
I'm just counting the 3, Alice.
Next week they'll teach you 4.
1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2. Okay, the cam signal looks fantastic. I like it. Let's zoom in on the crank.
I'm glad you're fucking happy. That makes one of us, Ivan.
Yep.
But I'm just staying at it, moving along.
There's the crank.
Here it starts. All we happy.
Alright. So from here, I want to unplug the crank sensor, okay, and just crank it over with the cam and see when our spark is occurring. Alright, next check we're going to do, I have the crank sensor unplugged. We want that out of the picture. 3 channels this time. Again, we have our pressure on cylinder 2, control on coil number 2, and our cam signal there. So let's give it a shot. What do you think, Al? It runs. Well, it's the first time it ran with this engine in it, so.
What did you do?
It's running without the crank right now, without the crank signal. It's just running on the cam. Let's save this.
Yeah, I thought it had to have the crank.
So we know that our cam signal is good. We can see our spark occurring at, before top dead center. That's good, but why did it not run with cam and crank signal together? That's what we have to figure out right now. Alright, so we're getting somewhere. It runs fine on just the cam sensor.
With
now
one plug out.
What's that?
With one plug out.
Yeah, and it's misfiring right now.
That sounds pretty good for 5.
Yeah. So we got to figure out why. When we plug in the crank, I'm going to try that next. See if it fires up. Maybe it was just flooded or something. I don't know. We're going to make it, try to make it run with both sensors plugged in and everything synchronized, and we're getting there.
And we just heard it run.
All right, the crank sensor is plugged back in. We have the same 3 channels up. I'm going to fire it up. Actually, before that, I want to check for codes, see if our trouble codes changed, and then we'll fire it up. Alright, here are the trouble codes here. No crank reference. That's because we had the crank unplugged. ASD, we had that taken out. And the 340 from before, so I'm going to clear these codes. Yep. Okay. Alright, we got no codes. We got everything plugged in. Let's cross your fingers. Let's go to our scope. So 3 channels. Again, blue is our pressure in the cylinder. Our yellow is the... What is our yellow? Our yellow is our cam sensor, and the green is the coil control on number 2. Alright, here we go. Key off. Key, yep, okay, good. Key on. Alright, interesting. Pause and zoom.
I did notice when you had that crank sensor unplugged, that starter didn't make that noise either.
So let's see where our spark is occurring now.
Nowhere near where it was.
You're probably right about that, Al. Yep, there's a spark right there. That's wrong.
Plugged in the crank sensor, could it be the crank sensor? I mean, I know the crank sensor ain't bad. But the crank sensor, it's reading a different crank.
So see right there, it was where it was supposed to be. Right there was not. So that is our issue. See, the spark occurred after our compression peak there.
No way I'm off or 2. Double check. I'm telling you.
1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2.
Yeah, that's us.
1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2. Yep, nothing wrong with the cam. So let's see what trouble codes we set, if any. Scanner codes. Turn the key on. No codes present. And just to verify, I'm going to unplug the crank again, see if it fires up like it did last time. It should.
Did you put the plug in?
The spark plug?
Yeah.
No, I didn't put that in yet. Alright, crank is unplugged again. Key off. Key on. Wow. It runs with a misfire, obviously.
Do that crank sensor.
Yep, so now we need a known good cam crank relationship for an 03 Liberty. And I want to compare it to what I got off of this engine, because the other variable is if the crankshafts aren't the same, that sink notch could be occurring at a different spot, and that's what's throwing us off. But you know, for now it runs on just the cam and it can drive. Alright, I just wanted to do a quick clip here to recap this Jeep Liberty engine swap fiasco that you guys joined me for. So let's look at some waveforms. We need known good waveforms. That was the absolute key here, and that would have kind of helped me find the problem in, you know, 5 minutes instead of 2 days of, you know, finding one problem, but that was only half of it. You know, the cam, the crank. So let's look at some waveforms here that we took at Big Al's, and also, you know, the glare in this thing is kind of bad, but you'll see. So this is the waveform initially from day one, from the engine that was put into this 2003 Jeep, but this is the 2004 engine. So this is before swapping over the cam sprocket. The green is our crankshaft signal, and as you can see, it's kind of a goofy signal. I counted the notches here, so if all the notches were there, it's 36 notches, but these sink notches, every 180 degrees of the crank, see, there's a low, there's a high, there's a low, so that would be 360 degrees of the crank, and you're basically missing 2 notches for each big sink notch. So this is the 2004 crankshaft signal, and the cam, as you can see, it's 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3. And right here is where it kind of tried to start. I guess one coil fired at just the right time to make it bump or actually go backwards. But anyways, here's the you know, that's a known good pattern for a 2004 engine. Okay, so even if we go back a little bit here, see, the same thing happened. It fired, but the engine actually slowed down because it fired way too early, and the crankshaft actually, you know, got kicked backwards, and that's why you're hearing that starter sound like it was going bad, but it wasn't. It was just really, the timing was way off. So that was the 2004. Now let's look at, courtesy of Eric O. I know you guys are following him too. He was working on a Jeep Liberty about the same time I was, and you know, he had some different issues, actually related, but here's a known good waveform for a 2003 model, and also 2002. Those are the same. Yellow is the crank, green is the cam. Now as you can see, the crank is completely different. For 100 or 360, it's 3 groupings of 4, and the cam is, it starts out the same, 1, 2, 3, but then it goes 1, 3, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2. Alright, so those are the known good waveforms. Now, in our case, when we swapped over the cam sprocket, and I'll admit my diagnosis was correct, but it was only halfway correct. If I told Al that the crank was off, obviously he wouldn't waste 5 hours swapping the cam sprocket over. So I do feel bad about that. And again, you know, should have been more thorough. And you know, I saw that the windows were different on the cam sprocket, and I assumed that was the only thing they changed. But apparently, that is absolutely not the case. So, you know, there's that. And last thing I wanted to show you guys was the part numbers for the 2 model years. The first difference is that camshaft sprocket. So here's the 2003 Jeep Liberty, and we're worried about the right camshaft sprocket. There's a number and it ends with an AF. So keep that in mind. Now I'm going to switch over to the 2004. There's 2004. And here the part number is the same except for the last letter. It's AD. Imagine that. So we went from AF to AD. And the left sprocket's the same number. So there you go. That was the difference in the cam sprocket. Let me pull up the crankshaft. Alright, so for the crankshaft, for the 2003, that's the part number right there. Now I'm going to switch over to the 2004. Same number, but they added AB. So the only difference there is that stupid reluctor wheel. And now, last thing that burned me, I want to go to Rock Auto and show you how the listings there can actually throw you off if you're trying to match or see if the parts are different from year to year. So before going over on day one, I was doing a little homework, and I just went to Rock Auto Parts to see what the part numbers were for the crankshaft, which includes the reluctor wheel, and the camshaft sprocket. So here's the listing for the crankshaft for the 2003 Jeep Liberty. If you look at the OEM number, that matches all data. And then I looked at these two, 253600 and 19097. Okay, now let's go to 2004. The OEM number is obviously different, but I didn't look at that. I just looked at these two, 253600, 19097. I'm like, oh, okay, the crankshafts are the same. We're all good there. All we need is the camshaft sprocket, right? But if you look close, for example, on this listing, it says the forging number is the updated part number right there. You know, the OEM. And it says reuse the old reluctor. Man, I didn't read that. I got slid. That's right. So basically, watch out, you know. Stuff like that can definitely throw you for a loop. And then on let's go to the camshaft sprocket listing. Alright, last little bit here. 2003 Jeep Liberty, looking at the camshaft sprockets here. So focus on the ones with the windows. That's the right one. See, right side and right side. So Cloy's number is S832. And this one right here is 1745418, and there's the OEM part number. Alright, flipping over to 2004. Notice the Cloy's brand, it's a different number, S868. However, the other one has the exact same part number, 1745418, and the same OEM crossover. So that right there is actually incorrect. Okay? So again, 2003, that guy right there. 2004, that guy right there. So that listing on Rock Auto is wrong for which model year? Do we know? Oh, we're looking up crankshafts there. But anyways, one of these is wrong. Looking back at our camshaft sprocket numbers, actually they're all different. So for the right side, this is 2003. It ends with an AF, so 5302129 AF. And then for 2004, it's that same number in AD. And then on the Rock Auto listing, it's that same number AC. So this sprocket, I don't even know what model year that goes to. Maybe it's a 2002. Who knows? Anyways, it's wrong on both 2003 and 2004. So I won't bore you with more details, but what can we learn from this? I think the whole fiasco, no one really won. Okay, we had basically two Jeeps that drove in under their own power. The guy, you know, said swap the engines over. Big Al swapped the engines over. He did a great job. I'm not gonna, you know, he did what he was asked, and now we have two non-running Jeeps that, to make running, well, probably the easiest thing would be to do another engine swap. I mean, seriously, unless the other option is to swap over the brains, the computers and the harnesses, since the connectors are all different. And then what about the transmission? What does the computer control the transmission? So it would just be a whole nother can of worms there. So basically no one wins in this situation, but we all learn. So yeah, I guess it is what it is. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. Hope you learned something new and some of the frustrations that you can run into. And the big lesson here is don't swap engines from 03 to 04 Jeep Liberty. Just don't do it. Don't even try. Bye guys, thanks for watching. See you later.